But right now, Colleen, what's the latest with PPE? Who's paying? Who isn't?
So I decided when I reached out to you guys that it was time to kind of do this again, and that lovely fun subject of who's paying PPE and who
Right.
isn't. I guess I decided to give myself a headache instead of all of you. And so I went through and updated, did some updates. And what I noticed happening is when I was looking at my notes about a week ago, some of the PPE has ended. Some of it ended in August. Some of them ended in September. And then there's others that are October and end of the year. So I thought it might be a good time to talk about it. So I'm going to share a screen and I hope it works. I know we're live, but so what I did for everybody is I have gone through and I'm still working on some of this because I want to make sure all my notes are right. But anything that is highlighted in the bright yellow are still active. So these are the ones that I found that are either through the end of October or through the end of the year. So when you scroll down, and I did also move for everybody's sake, the frequency limitations over, because it was at the far end and I was making myself a little nuts going back and forth. So this way you can look at the name of the insurance. You can look at, do you need the PPE code or not? And what the date is. And so I'm trying to highlight out those that are still active. The notes are in the details of coverage. And if you don't find it there, what I want to tell everybody too is check their websites. These insurances are being really great on the sites. They're updating them, they're keeping them up to date, they're putting notes, they're sending letters to people. But just as a brief kind of, I'm going to scroll down here of who's still active. So your Care First Blue Cross Blue Shield, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas is still active. If I could get my screen to work, it would be nice. Deltas of Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio are through the end of the year, but it's through a grant. So that's the other thing is just because it says yes, it pays it, and maybe says no, you don't have to bill the D1999, read it because there's some weird ones out there. There's this grant through Henry Schein that you have to apply for to get the money, and then you're going to get it in a lump sum. I did find a new one when I went on. The ADA has a site that they've been updating the information also. And there's one called Dominion National that jumped in somewhere. I don't know when it really showed up. I just found it. And I'm not familiar with them, but if you're watching me from around the country, this might be one that you're going, yeah, we work with them. They're through the end of the year. Guardian is doing claims through the end of October for certain ones and only certain dentists. And there's a lot of different ways that it's going about it. I myself have not seen a payment yet from Guardian. It looks like it's an auto pay and they're sending it in a lump sum at the end of the year. But they changed some of the wording. So again, check the websites, and I'm trying to keep them all in my head. But as you can tell, there's a lot of information and they go in a lot of directions. GEHA is for par dentists only, but they jumped in July. So it's been interesting to see who jumped in right away, who showed up later, who's doing different things at different times. MetLife jumped in September, a little bit late to the party, but it's going to be for those through the end of October. So they're just doing like 2 months. But again, you have to bill the D1999. That being said, I want to remind everybody, you can't just pick and choose who you charge this to. So for example, the office I work in, we're not charging for PPE. So I'm not getting paid from half of these insurances because you can't pick and choose. What you charge for one, you have to charge to everybody. So you can't just say, oh, I'm going to charge to these guys because they're paying it and not charge your fee-for-service patients, your regular out-of-pocket patients. It's right across the board. And you can't charge just your insurance patients. And the other thing to pay really close attention to is some of them you might be billing $10 as you are billing, and you're billing $10, but the plan only allows $7. Same as anything else, you're in network, you have to accept that. Lincoln Financial is one that I saw doesn't have an end date yet. So that means, I don't know what that means. Are they ending the end of the year? Have they decided they're just going to stop paying at some point? Principal is the end of the year. Again, a lot of them you have to be in network to get paid. Sun Life is one that I noticed. They're with the billing the code, but they're again in-network dentists only, and they're very specific. No deductible. It doesn't go towards the deductible. It doesn't count towards their maximum. So what does this do? This messes up our maximums in our computers, so we have to kind of pay attention. So if you have a patient who's close to their max, You might want to go back through and see how much PPE you've got, because that's a little bit more money they may have. United Healthcare is another one that I wanted to point out. They have this enhanced provider payment, and this one came on recently. And I haven't honestly had a chance to really look into it in detail. I was going to for my office. There was problems with the website when I tried to research it a little bit. But it's one like the Henry Schein. You have to put in for it, and then once you're in it, you're going to start getting paid, but you have to be billing the 1999 also. Or no, not with that one. You don't have to bill the 1999, and it's going to be lump payments. So there's a lot of information still out there. It is still a moving target, as we've been saying all along. If you have this, I'm updating, you'll be able to see, and I try to put the dates on the end of when I last updated things. Some of them don't seem to be there, and I don't know why. They might have been the originals. But anything I did today, I'm trying to update them as best I can and putting the date. But if you see new colors show up, there might be something that I'm doing with that. I might start putting red across the ones that are done. But this is still a moving target. If you look at the Blue Cross Blue Shield, they have a percentage. Like they're paying a percentage, 3% from 5/15 to 8/31, and then 2.5% of the amount that is being charged out, I believe, is how that one worked. So they're all completely different, just to make our lives easier. I can't hear you, Priscilla. Priscilla, you're muted.
Well, it wouldn't be virtual working if we didn't have the hookups here and there.
I know.
I was just gonna let everybody know that, hey, this is linked in the video comments, so you can go feel free to open this up and take a look. And if you have a question that's not specific, you can comment right on the thread and we'll tag Colleen in it, or you can send us a message and we'll actually bring Colleen in. With that, we actually just got a question in. Would you mind if I asked?
No, that's okay. And then I have one other thing after the question. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So somebody had just asked about their orthodontist and being out of network across the board. For the majority of insurance companies, the claim at the beginning of the treatment, and that's the only claim you send, they pay the ortho LMT monthly or quarterly. I'm mentioning this because I've heard some insurance companies are sending PPE payments linked to exam codes, and most orthos never submit for exams.
So in that case, there are a few that are going to pay to ortho as a percentage or as a lump sum. Some of them on their websites are very specific. But if they are paying for an exam code only, unfortunately, there's nothing they can do. Because again, if you don't charge for it, you're not going to charge for it. Excuse me. So orthodontists, I would say, go to the websites and see if there's anything you can do. In some cases, they were having them put to basically, they were going back and kind of prorating it over the time span of how many visits they thought they'd be coming in, is one of the notes that I saw. So ortho has to be aware, and just, you have to do a little research, unfortunately. The other thing I wanted to make everybody aware of, and at least if you're in New York State, you need to listen to this, and I know there's a few other states that came across, but New York came out with that we can't legally charge for PPE at all. Like if you're in network, you cannot charge it. And they actually are sending letters, not just to the doctors, but to the patients in the last month, telling them that if you got charged for PPE, call your dentist and ask for your money back.
Wow.
And informing the dentist that they need to reimburse it. So if you're charging, you have to be careful and pay attention to what it states and how it is. The one caveat or odd thing about this that I know was being fought at a state level, and I don't know what the conclusion has been, is that they were only targeting the dentists that participate with the insurance, which seemed to be unfair. There was question about whether you're fee for service or not. If you are billing to the insurance, then you fall under this. So just be really careful when it comes to the PPE. Check with your state. If you have any questions, you can contact the New York State Department, the New York State board, and that's something they can look at. I know Maryland had a question about it, but I hear they clarified it. So just be aware that what is good for one state isn't always good for another. And when you're talking to people like this on Facebook, sometimes it's good to say, hey, what state are you in? Because right. Florida rules, California rules, New York rules are all completely different. There's things I can do and you guys can in another state or vice versa. Normally you can't do it in New York, but a lot of the states have very different ruling on these things. So you have to be careful on it.
I can't even imagine. So I know some people love insurance billing. I get so intimidated every time I look at it. I'm like, I don't know which end is up. So thank heavens that you've done training with us. Like you have an entire course with us now for insurance mastery. So people can actually learn the ins and outs of this insurance and they can digest it. For people like me who are completely overwhelmed and have no idea where to start half the time.
Well, I'm really excited about the course. I'm, put the link up there for people to go to, and it's designed for, you can know nothing, because that's how I started, and learn it as you go. And I love it. I don't know why, but I do.
You're our insurance hero. What will you do without you?